Hey everybody, welcome back. So we're going to take a crack at practicing some subject lines just so we can apply some of what we talked about in this section.
Yeah, we're going to get into both a B2B and a B2C example, and we're going to start with B2B. And the company we've been thinking about is Meet Edgar, which is a email automation or a Twitter automation tool for sharing a backlog of your best blog posts, whatever content you have, so you don't have to sit there and plan out 7 tweets a day.
Yeah, so what we're going to try to do is come up with some subject lines and pretend like we were the company emailing potential users. And I'm pretty sure I've gotten cold emails from them, so this is actually somewhat of a real world example. Okay, well, yeah, let me think. I'm a big fan of subject lines that demonstrate their value, right? And so this isn't something you can do with every single thing, but the premise behind Meet Edgar is that they will repost old content on your Twitter so that it's supposed to make it easier to fill your Twitter feed, right?
The idea is they let you focus on creating high value social content so that you're not babysitting social media, you're focusing on your blog, and then it deals with keeping you relevant on social media and not having to worry about taking a high value blog post and letting it get forgotten about it.
Yeah.
We'll reblog it at regular intervals.
I might try something along the lines of, here's one that's a little technical and one that's maybe a little salesy. The technical one might be the title could be, you only tweeted twice yesterday.
Right.
Just make it like a flat statement, and when you get into it, you can say, the best people do it 14 times or something.
Right.
The other option I think would be, and I just think this is funny, is if you use a subject line that says your Twitter is broken. Because I think that, because it's not actually broken, but they're not doing it right.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I think, I'm trying to think of which one I would actually open.
Right. I feel like if I might get mad at your Twitter is broken.
But you definitely open it because you'd never see a company say that.
I would definitely open it, unless I might actually just jump straight over to Twitter, and then when it wasn't,
Yeah.
I might,
I'm great at open rates, maybe not so much response rates. I don't know. Okay, what do you think?
So I think a couple things. Like I could do something along the lines of like using the actual like name of the person or the account, and saying like increase your engagement by X%. I don't know if that's like too specific or getting into the metrics in a way, but I respond well to just really clear lines. Although
That sounds like a newsletter.
yeah, that's the concern, is it might just be
Sounds like a blog.
a little bit too forgettable or ignorable.
I think the thing is that with subject line, for me at least, is that I have so many emails that are coming from newsletters, and newsletters are like, the subject lines are under the assumption that this is privileged information, like they gave consent and now you're going to message them.
Right.
So they already know who you are, so you're not trying, it's just a different strategy. So I try to think of things that try to stay away from that as much as possible, because I get 25 promos a day, probably 30 promos a day, and so it could very easily start to blend in. I think that might be, at least in my inbox, that's a concern.
Right.
Yeah, okay, so like, this is again punchy, but it's not necessarily wrong. You could say you're doing Twitter wrong. That's conversational. It's like someone said it directly to you. Although it wouldn't feel like a person necessarily sent that. I would still open it though. I'm trying to think if you could customize it more, because I think that's really where you're going to get the punch. Because you're theoretically, you're going to a Twitter account, you're threading it by people who are doing something wrong on Twitter, right?
Right.
And then you're saying, and then you're using that list to email them. So it should be a pretty resource-rich opportunity for syntax.
Right.
Here's some other ones that I think you could try. You could say things like this just sounds like someone might say this to you. The subject could be, did you tweet yesterday?
Right.
And that's just weird enough that they're like a service didn't send that. You know what I mean? It's
Right.
almost like someone just asking that. It's an odd question for someone to ask you. I think that one might pique your interest enough, but I don't think it's necessarily the best subject line you could use.
Or like Zach, Twitter misses you.
Zach, Twitter miss. I would think that came from Twitter. Twitter does that.
Right.
Whenever you're inactive, they send you the activation emails,
Huh.
you know?
What do you think about like, Twitter automation that doesn't suck? Is that just not focused enough on the customer?
I like the fact
too
that
focused on the
I like
business.
the fact that it uses an emotional trigger, which is it's like a convenience trigger, right? Like you presumably think it sucks. What I think will happen is you'd have almost kind of a low open rate just because some people don't agree, right?
Right.
If you don't agree, you're not going to open it. But the people who do agree, it's like, well, it's probably easier to pass them through to conversion.
Right.
But I think that one would be worth testing. Honestly, like a lot of it comes down to style, and then it's just testing and iteration, right? So, like for me, I like goofy stuff. So I would do a subject line that says "Twitter me timbers," right? Because that's so weird.
I would open that.
You would open that, right?
Twitter me timbers.
Twitter me timbers. Like it's just something stupid, but it gets
Right.
them to open it, you know?
Stop twiddling, start twittering.
Right. And if you get them starting with like a chuckle, that's not
Right.
bad. It's not necessarily a good connection in terms of information,
Right.
but if you sent out 200 emails that said Twitter me timbers, someone's going to be like, someone just emailed me saying Twitter me timbers. You know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah.
actually something that kind of sticks out in your head.
Sure.
Because I always try to think of, when I write my subjects, I try to think of my Gmail, right? And I try to think of the headlines I typically see, and you just get desensitized to certain ones. So I'm trying to think of the ones that don't follow that format and are written in a voice that wouldn't sound like a company was saying it to you, which is just,
Right.
that's the knife's edge you kind of have to balance. I like using rhetorical questions. So if they answer yes, they open kind of thing. So I might say something like, is Twitter worth it for you? Right? Because the core of Meet Edgar is that I'm guessing a lot of people use it, but they can't keep up with it. So it's probably not worth it for them. They're probably dissatisfied with it.
Right.
And so it helps you fill in the gap. And Twitter is just a noise machine. It's the
Yeah.
people who grow, the people who tweet the most. I mean,
Right.
there's no mystery about it on Twitter. So I could see people like, oh, I only tweet twice a day. You might find it dissatisfying.
Right.
So maybe that might, because if they say yes, they open it, right? And if they say
Right.
no, well, probably not going to convert them anyway.
Right. It's good because it creates tension to see if it's
Right.
going to be positive or negative, because I think people want to hear it's not right for them,
Yeah.
even though they're always told it is.
Yeah. And one of the things also I think that's worth pointing out is that when you guys try different subject lines, you're obviously going to test them. You're going to try some ones that are more calmer and some that are like more out there. And one of the metrics you'll look at is just your unsubscribe rate. Like that's going to be basically, if you send a subject that is just too punchy and it's just off base, your unsubscribe rate's just going to go up, right? That's the easiest way to tell. You'll just see a big spike. Yeah. Because that's how people essentially vote on whether or not they like your subject line
Right.
or your content too. So sometimes you don't know if it's necessarily the body or the subject. But
Sure, but you can probably have some idea if you
send the
go
same
really out
body,
there. Right.
yeah, with a different subject, I think.
Right. That's controlling for that.
Sure.
So for B2C, we were thinking a lot of conferences, live events, and festivals will send out emails to try to beef up their attendance list, sell high-value tickets.
Sure.
Maybe like Fire Festival, Trash Fire Festival.
One very, very unfortunate festival.
God, what a mess.
Yeah. So it is very true that like conventions and events are high ticket enough that cold emailing is pretty easy, and they're mass market enough. That's a big one too.
But also niche enough. Not
Right.
everybody wants to go to Wisdom 2.0, the Mindfulness Meets Technology conference in San Francisco.
Is that a thing?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I was thinking of HustleCon. They have a very specific demo, and they use cold email to sell tickets. I don't know if they still do it. First, like 2 or 3 years, they're big on
Right.
cold email.
As they were still scaling their list while they were starting
Yeah,
this
and it
new
worked out really well for them
revenue
because their
stream,
tickets are $500, and so
Wow.
they did geographic targeting, and probably just went after who they work for. Their audience skews male, So okay, so for the B2C, we're just gonna pretend we have an event because we don't want to try to step on anybody else's toes with a real event. So and this might actually be real. Let's just pretend that there's a conference for corgi owners. We'll call it CorgiCon.
The world's cutest convention.
Right. And, for targeting on this one, that was easy, right? Because you're threading by, do you have a corgi?
Yeah.
And you live probably within a certain distance,
Right.
right? It's probably not going to have people like traveling for it, but I I don't know, some people really like their dogs. So subject lines. This is a little bit harder to pull off because you might not have this number at first, but you would project what your attendance is going to be. And let's say your attendance is going to be 2,000. I would put the subject 2,000 corgis in a room.
That's really killer subject line.
It's so
a
weird.
no-brainer
You
for
love
people that
corgis.
want it. Yeah.
Could you imagine? It's like a ball pit of corgis.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Ball pit of corgis.
Right. I just imagine jumping into them. So I would open that.
Me too.
It's like a meme.
Don't open if you hate dogs.
Well, I'd go straight corgis.
Yeah.
Don't open if you hate corgis.
Right. Don't open if you hate corgis. Yeah.
That's a pretty good one too, because it's kind of like, it's not edgy.
Reverse
It's like kind of witty.
psychology.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that could work too. Okay, I might do something, and this is solely because of alliteration, but I would put something, and it's just because the concept's so goofy. Your corgi wants to go to CorgiCon.
Yeah. Right.
You know what I mean? Because dog owners are notorious for personification, treating them like they're human beings.
Right.
What would you like for dinner tonight? You know what I mean?
Right.
So saying like it's from the dog's point of view, like
Right.
you know, he just wants to go.
It's a good emotional
Gee.
trigger, and
Yeah, I think maybe, and they spoil their dogs so much that I think there's probably a connection there too. Like if you would take your dog to a corgi convention, you probably spoil the crap out of your dog.
do you care about your corgi?
Ooh, that's just
Is that too real?
that's yeah. He would probably be like feel a heart attack.
It just reads as like a threat.
It reads like pet insurance.
Right.
That's what I would guess it is.
Right.
Yeah. So I think we have 3 good ones. I think 2,000 corgis in a room is good. Don't open if you don't love your corgi. And then your corgi wants to go to CorgiCon. I think these are all attention getting, and I don't think any of these are going to lead you into the email with the wrong frame of mind. They're all like fun, you know, and that's the whole idea is it's a bunch of midget-sized dogs, you know, with no tail that run around and right. So
cute.
right.
How much are tickets? I'm going.
Yeah, you have to have a corgi. Okay. Well, I think it's a good one.
Cool.
Okay, cool. So we just did that on the fly. Those are just kind of brainstorming. I think in reality, we would take those and we test them. And we do some small batches, see how they go, see how our unsubscribe rates are, our open rates, see if, you know, people are just converting more from one or the other. And if we're not happy with it, then we would try something more, you know. Mm-hmm. But if we're getting over 60% in open rates, for me at least, that's typically where I say, like, pretty good. We're not going to go higher.
Nice.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. See everybody next lecture.